the small dog hour, 1 hour a day, out of 24. Marty, yeah, go ahead. I'll tell you who you're behind in that. Anyway, we just got to talking about a lot of things, and the senior center in Wayne now works for us part-time as our communications manager. Has helped redesign our website and has taken on our new membership program, which is brand new to us, called Membership Counts. It's $35 a year for new members to the senior center, and it's been a real honor and blessing having him around, not only for what he does, but there's another male in the office, so there's now 2 of us. Wayne has a pretty rich background in things, either high-tech or newspaper. Before he was 30, he owned a chain of 6 newspapers in South Dakota. At one point, he made a decision to go west, young man, and he sold those and came out and got involved in the high-tech industry. He worked for both Oracle and Cisco, and then eventually owned in at the Willows up the river, and ran that for a number of years, and has been working kind of off the books for Spiral Food Co-op, but he's been their general manager and has really tried to bring them into reality. So he's got a very rich ag background coming from South Dakota. He says he's birthed everything you can imagine. And a rich background in marketing and communications. And so that's why he's at Spiral, that's why he's working with us. And I'd like to, again, introduce and bring up Wayne Wiesler.
Thank you, Terry. Yeah, we have to thank our dogs for introducing us. And it has been, it's been about 2 years because Newton, my little 14.5-pound power dog, is 2.5. So it's 2 years and it's been a good 2-year relationship for us. A lot of respect for what Terry and the Senior Citizens Center is doing. And I've had the opportunity to volunteer with the Rotary. They put me at the front gate, a big intimidating figure to go through their bags and stuff. Actually, it's fun. Now, I've slowed down looking into the women's handbags and stuff because there are things that males should not see in them. So anyway, so that's my relationship with both the Senior Center, Terry, and the Rotarians. I did grow up on a large farm and ranch operation in north central South Dakota. Please do not ask me what it's close to, because it wasn't. It was $35 miles to the nearest loaf of bread, and 100 miles for the first medical center, or for a decent medical center. So therefore, we could not depend on anybody else. In fact, the essence of co-ops was, it was just the way we lived out there because we didn't have, all these services that we have grown used to. Living here in Sebastopol, West Coast. So we had to depend on each other, and that's the very essence of co-ops. They weren't a nicety. Let me give you an example of them. The Farmers Oil Co-op. All the farmers got together. There's no such thing as Chevron out there. There's no such thing as any of these other. So we formed the Farmers Oil Company, and that was way before I even came on the scene. That's where we got our oil, gas, tires, and they did some of the light mechanics that the farmers didn't really want to do. Because, of course, farmers are mechanics, too. There's a Farmers Grain Co-op. In the Farmers Grain Co-op, that's where we used to take our cash grain to. That's where we would get our salts and minerals. And they had a very unique program there. And I'm bringing up these different types of experiences that I grew up with, because they are really what co-ops are about. With the Farmers Co-op, or Grain Co-op, they used to buy certain implements that, maybe the farmers would use 1, 2, or 3 days. So why invest that immense amount of money in buying a farm implement? Well, they decided to get together, and they bought it, and then you would go in, and then you rented that back at a marginal cost. So through the co-op, the grain co-op, we were able to reduce our costs. Actually, we got those things called dividend checks from them. We got our electricity from a co-op out there. You know, the farmers and ranchers out there, they got tired of driving 35 to 50 miles so they could have a beer and a steak with the boys. Yeah, they formed a co-op to open a bar and steakhouse. That's still going after 30 years. And it's a great place to go because, you know, when you walk into that bar, you don't have to ask for a drink. They come in and, you know, when you walk in, they say, usual, yeah. They all know each other. So co-ops are a very firm a significant part of what I grew up with. So today I'm going to be talking about a little bit of the history behind it, because through the history you're going to learn different things about co-ops. And then finally I'm going to talk a little bit about what is the Spiral Foods Co-op. Now when I'm going through the history here, I'm going to give you some dates. And I want you to be thinking about what was happening about that time. The co-op movement pretty much got started in the 19th century. The earliest one was in 1498. Who can tell me what happened about that time? Well, Christopher Columbus took off and he bumped into America by accident. So that's how far the real movement goes back. Co-ops have been part of this, part of the history of the United States from its very beginning. The first actual co-op was in 1498, and the first consumer cooperative was in 1769, 1776. So these men have been around quite a bit, and it's been very part of the network of the United States from its very beginning. By 1830, there were several hundred cooperatives, but by 1840, most of them had failed. And the first significant one was in 1832. And that was formed. It was called the Lockhurst Lane Industrial Cooperative Society. They had a lot of words in those days, and it's actually still going today. So co-ops have been part of the rich history. Well, in the early part of that history, they came up with some principles by which all co-ops live by today. And maybe some of these things even relate to what the Rotary is doing. For instance, voluntary and open membership. They stood by that anybody could join this. Secondly, anti-discrimination. Think about that. Back into the 19th century, that they were already talking about anti-discrimination. They didn't care what your color you were, what gender you were, what religion you were. If you had the money to buy into the co-op, you could be a member of that co-op. They also stand for democratic member control. Are you starting to hear things about this incredible experiment called the United States of America? They were talking about democratically controlled organizations well before the United States was ever thought of. One of the principles they also said is that everybody is equal. For instance, in Spiral Foods, you can become an owner for $300. They call themselves, some of them call themselves members. This is not a membership. You're an owner, and you have an equal vote. Unlike some of the corporations we have today, you don't have majority. Linda here cannot own 50% of the stock in a co-op. This doesn't happen in this co-op. Everyone is equal, and once you buy in, you are there for life. Independence, they were strong advocates from the very beginning for education, training, and information, sharing, and one of the core of all co-ops is concern for their community. Do we have any credit? How many people can name the co-ops that we have here in the Sebastopol area? Ants?
Redwood Credit Union.
Redwood Credit Union. Bing.
Range.
Range is a co-op. It's more of an organization, but they do some consumer and commercial work together. REI. That's one of the big ones in this area. Actually, during the heyday of apple production in this area, they had co-ops where farmers would truck their apples in and they would distribute them, load them on train cars and send them across the United States. And they were, these co-ops, these apple co-ops also process a lot of apples. So even, we don't see a lot of these, it's not evident that there were co-ops. We look at the credit union, that's where we go get our cash and put cash in, but actually that's a co-op. So really co-ops have been a rich part of the history of this area. Tucker is fond of saying, and I should apologize, he could not show up, unfortunately, he could not be here today. He had a little girl about 3 weeks ago, and she came kicking or screaming into the school. Well, actually, that was Julia. Anyway, it's a difficult delivery. Both of them are doing well, but he could not show up today. So unfortunately, you got to deal with me today. So anyway, I'm shortening the speech significantly. Women's movement. Alice Auckland, the editor of the Women's Corner in the Cooperatives News publication, Mary Lawrence, and a teacher, recognized that a separate organization within the co-op movement and began organizing the Women's League to spread cooperation in 1883. The Guild organized around women's issue and expanding the co-op movement. There, they got politically involved in what was going here on women's health issues, women's suffrage, and pacifism. From the very beginning, you're seeing with that the co-ops have been a rich part of not only our economic, but also our social and political fabric. Largest co-op in operation today. 150,000 members in Spain, and that there's no room for big box stores there. You want to buy a car, you go to the co-op. If you want insurance, you go to the co-op. If you want groceries, you go to the co-op. If you want to take your kids, there are some cooperative schools there too. So that is such a dominant force there that there's no such thing as big box stores. So that's the largest one that is going today. In many of the European countries, the cooperative institutions have a predominant share of retail banking and insurance businesses. In the UK, the co-op party is a significant portion of the Labour Party there. So there's a rich history in the development of Great Britain's history about where this co-op is, and it's alive and well today. The largest one in the United States is a conglomerate of manufacturers, furniture makers, and they have over $2 billion in business and are employee-owned. That brings up a point. Tucker, if you had been here, he usually opens his discussion with this. When you see one co-op, you have seen one co-op. All co-ops are different, how they're organized. If you ever get a chance to go to Grass Valley, make sure you stop at Briar Patch. This is a phenomenal grocery store. High-end, incredibly nice looking, larger than anything that we have here. And there are 42 farmers that are providing fresh produce for them. Huge. And it's they invited me into their manager's meeting. And first off, the general manager said, I have to apologize, Wayne. 3 of our managers couldn't be here, and they had 13 department managers. And I looked around the room and I said, I'm the only one for Spiral. So I would say it's just a huge operation. Then I continued on up to Reno, and the Reno one is the Great Basin one. Just to show you the difference, it was just this little kind of corner spot where they started in a closet of a record store, and they had their little break room in back, and I assure you there was a lot of granola eaters back there, and there were some very interesting things that they were smoking back there. I enjoyed my stay there, by the way. So their co-ops are very different, and we're going to talk a little bit about what Spiral is trying to do here. Right now, there's over 29,000 cooperatives employing 2 million people with $652 billion in annual revenue in the United States. So let's talk a little bit about Spiral Foods. They're based on 3 different things: better food, stronger community, and a healthier environment. And that's our 3 guiding principles. For instance, and what they want to do is they want to grow, harvest, and preserve food at the peak of freshness that not only tastes good, but is better for you. Let me give you an example. When I was brought into this world, actually I was born in California, and then they took me back to South Dakota, screaming and kicking, literally. And But when I got, right from the very beginning, when they returned me to South Dakota, I had horrible, horrible allergies that I had to live with. And they tried everything, went to the doctor and so on and so forth. And this old priest there, he said, give him locally produced honey. So they would start giving me honey that was produced in the area. And it gave me significant relief from that. And then I started taking baths in locally grown alfalfa. And it was the stinkiest thing you ever had. But I didn't have any rheumatism after that. One of the things that we have discovered, I think this thing's going south on me, is that food that's grown in the area produces for you the nutrition and the nutrients that you need to live in that area. So, you guys are very bright group. What is the average distance that food that you buy from the market travels to get there? Anybody? You are darn close. 1,500 miles. So, it could be, those bananas that you're eating. Do you really need those nutrients? It's something I've been thinking on because I love bananas. But obviously they're rich in potassium. But are they the best thing for me to be living here in the Sebastopol area? One of the things that they're going to do is for every dollar that would be spent, and this is true with any local business, every dollar that I spend in a local business generates another $1.60 income. And when you are heading off to do your shopping, Christmas shopping in San Francisco, how much did that dollar return to you? It was gone. So they stand by the principle that we take care of our own. And for every dollar that we spend locally, it generates another $1.60. Farmers, typically they get 20 cents out of every dollar spent. With the co-op, we could easily pay them 67 cents on a dollar for every dollar of food sold. Obviously, I'm a farm boy. I mean, look at, I spent the first 20 years on the back of a horse and tractor, and maybe that, explains the reason I walk the way I do. But essentially, taking care of that, our farmers is taking care of our future. Does anybody know in this astute group how many days supply of food we have here in Sebastopol? Sir?
What?
Actually, what they suggest is about 3 days. So if all food that's coming to this area, the farmers are producing and bringing it in, we have 3 days of food. if, let's say there was a catastrophe, can you live on 3 days of food? Nobody can. So one of the things that Spiral is really, they want to talk, and I wish Tucker would have come in here because he's an expert on food systems. But what they do is we want to bring the production of our food back to us so that we have a guaranteed food supply. Another thing that we campaign for is minimal packaging. You know, if you look at a lot of the co-op, the members of the co-op, we've been banging our bags to the markets for some time. It was no shock when the plastic bags were outlawed here. Finally, in the Occupy movement that was going on a couple years ago, they said that all roads lead to Wall Street. Well, those very same roads lead us right back home. And the Spiral Foods is an example where we want to bring our food production back where it belongs, better for us. We want to support local farmers and business people. And finally, we want a healthier planet. In fact, we want to use minimal packaging for all of our food. So that is really the basis of where Spiral is. We are now the largest member food organization in the North Bay. We have 450 paid households, which amounts to somewhere around 13 to 1,400 people. We've run into a little bit of a bump here recently, and I'll gladly answer questions now about that and anything with Spiral or after the program today. So, is there any questions? Sir?
How does Spiral fit into the CSA movement?
At this point, one of the things with the CSA movement is we're seeing that there's less participation, but we are actually, that is going to be part of it. We are a co-op. We are about inclusion. So what the owners want, we will give them, if it seems economically feasible to do so. Does that answer your question, sir? Any other questions?
Is there a physical location for Spiral?
I was brought in about a year ago in November, and my job for them was to collect their strategic thinking and lay down the operational structure for the market. We ran into significant problems, and asking the questions up. So there's no, but the ultimate goal is to set up a market.
What kind of food do you have?
This year they canned a whole bunch of apples and persimmons and beans. What else did they do? We do things like the Heritage Turkey Buys, where we go out and buy a bunch of turkeys, and then the owners can share in that. So there's certain things. There really had, because we ran into a significant bump about opening up the market, their fallback position is developing a skilled share program where the owners of the co-op can come together and they can learn how to can food, where they can learn how to dry food, things of that sort.
Who are your members? Are they producers? Are they consumers?
Okay, out of that 450 members, we have. I think we had 52 farmers. No, excuse me. We had 74 producers.
And what do they produce?
Well, it's all the way from granola. We have meat, pork, chicken, turkey, tomatoes, any type of vegetable, fruits. So there's blueberries.
And are they commercial farmers? Or are they people who have big backyards? Or
Excuse me?
are they commercial farmers? Or are they people with big backyards? Or I don't understand how this is working.
Well, you know, as far as commercial farmers, I want to say they're farmers. But there are also people who have big backyards who grow a lot of tomatoes or asparagus. So, and there's people who want to be part of it because they want to be able to produce yogurts and things of that sort. Okay, I think we have about one more question in us.
What's the big significant bump you run into we should be asking about?
Part of the joy of my time as the general manager is that we approached 12 different financial institutions. And every one of them said, we don't do startups. We don't do startups. Two of the objections we ran into were actually foundations who support farming and stuff like that. But we had to have at least one of the members own 25% interest in the co-op. That's not, you can't, everybody's equal. There's no way that anybody can. So we ran in, co-op's kind of a strange breed for some of these people around here. And to find out a lot of the financial institutions kind of scratch their heads. Another thing we ran into is that the facility, to get into the facility, just to open the door, that's not even put anything in there, was $200,000. That was a significant hit on us.
Last question.
So can I, just practically speaking, if one were to become a member, you've got members who are growing blueberries or candy apples, practically speaking, what does it mean to be a member at this point?
At this point, it's, I would say that is a continued movement in the Spiral Foods Co-op. It has hit a wall, and it was a financial wall. And, but they still are looking at
Is there exchanges happening right now?
There have been, and actually, I don't know if they're going to, they did the turkey one at Thanksgiving this last year, but they get together and they did their canning. I canned applesauce this year. It was actually fun. So yeah, there are things going on. Best thing to do is go on to spiralfoods.coop and take a look at what's going on there. So it's, the movement is not dead. It's going to be redefining itself. And I think the market is probably 3 to 5 years away at a minimum. Thank you very much.
We do a door prize, and if I could prevail on you to draw one of these tickets, read the last 4 digits.
All right. The ticket number is 1626.
Hey, we got This is the bottle of John Boletto bottle, special request, very nice Pinot, and with each of these bottles, we're going to competition. So enjoy that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Gilliam, you feel lucky? Let's see, we're not sure we're going to lose. Okay, so we're going to fan those guys out here. Yes. No cigar, but Wayne, was there a door prize or did you get that?
I did.
Okay, well, we'll put you down for another time.
Okay.
Put you for next July.
Yeah,
But, Gus? I hear you can have a,
It's gotta be a very short joke, right? We're almost out of time. We're out. There was that fellow in Rio Negro down there, he stepped out of his house on his deck.
Hold the mic up.
Oh, now we know.
yeah.
Anyway, start again. There was that fellow down in Rio Negro. He stepped out of his back door on his deck, and there was that big snail sitting on his deck. He picked it up, threw it down the canyon. So about a year later, somebody knocked on his front and his back door. He opened the door, and there sat the snail. He opens it. What did you do that for?